nerds, and welcome. We are Crossing the Nerdverse, bringing you yet another episode. My name is Travis. I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic co-hosts, Eric and James. We are sadly without Ryan this episode, as he is taking care of some family business, which we will not begrudge him of, I guess. We might. We'll see how the night goes. Depends on how this topic runs. And it's the introduction, I should say, to spooky season. We are finally in October, which I know is a lot of people in the Nerdverse's favorite holiday, because they get to celebrate the spooky wookiness. So, leading us into our topic, we'll start off with James.
Well, so the first thing we're talking about today is our additions to the PlayStation. So, what Eric was mentioning earlier is I don't have a PlayStation, so I can't actually say. But what Eric was mentioning earlier is that Doki Doki Literature Club, and what was the other one?
Dead Space.
Dead Space, yeah, Dead Space. Both phenomenal horror games. Doki Doki Literature Club is such a trick because it's it's a dating sim, but it's just totally a horror game. Highly recommend it.
The twist on Doki Doki Literature Club was wild. I will also mention that Game Grumps did a playthrough of Doki Doki Literature Club where they provided the voice acting for it, and that really puts a weird amount of levity into a game that turns very horrific.
Yeah,
so
it does.
I'm excited because the Dead Space it's actually the remake, so it should look really good. I'm hoping I'll get some good jump scares out of it. I turn the lights out and
I haven't
in the eye once or twice.
I haven't checked out the remake. I played the original when it came out and loved it.
Spectated the original because one of James and I's common friends, Ugly, was very into Dead Space, and I remember sitting next to him when I was in college and him playing through Dead Space and us burning several holes in the carpet because we'd drop our cigarettes. Did not get the security deposit back on that apartment.
So yeah, you got to give it to PlayStation. They were smart. I am a little surprised they didn't do Silent Hill for Halloween. There's a lot more jump scares and shit with that.
I don't know. Dead Space has a lot.
Yeah, but just because they put the wrestling game out, so 2K24 is also coming out this month. Solid game. I mean, wrestling. But definitely surprised they didn't go with an all Halloween lineup like a Silent Hill with Dead Space and then the Doki Doki. I am excited to play Doki Doki, and I don't usually say that about literature style games because I don't get to do a lot. But
I'm
one looks phenomenal.
To experience that game.
Yeah, everybody should play.
And I just like
everybody...
saying it, Doki Doki. It's really cool. So
I can't wait for you to see the person with the tiny hands.
Doki Doki is the sound of the heartbeat for like Japanese people.
Really?
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
The more you know.
I'll see myself out.
And then what else do we got that's like brand new this week for Halloween for you guys? You guys got anything else?
Yeah, actually, the first episode of Uzumaki was on Saturday, which, if you don't know, Junji Ito is a very well-known horror mangaka, like manga artist, writer, and he's got several other adaptations that were like okay, but this one so far, the first episode was like a really good adaptation of his like most famous story by far.
Oh, nice.
Looking forward to next episode on Saturday.
I don't get as much into the spooky season as most people. I'm a big Thanksgiving guy, so I'll talk about like turkey all you want, but Halloween's not a huge holiday for me. I will say I do listen to like true crime and serial killer podcasts for the entire month of October because I really do find that terrifying. Like I'll go to these horror movies and stuff and I'm just like, yeah, like jump scares, it got me a little bit on stuff, but then it just, passes over me. But I will sit and ponder like true crime podcasts, like what did happen?
Did you watch the horror movie Thanksgiving?
There's a horror movie Thanksgiving. Yeah. I'm watching it now.
There you go. That's your compromise.
Yeah, that's it. We're bringing it in. Both of them.
Jesus. I think the only other thing, and I'll just mention it quickly because we're going to touch on it throughout the episode, is just Agatha's being new and and everything that's going on with that is pretty impressive.
I'm excited to see new like Marvel cast of characters that we haven't seen. That's always my big thing. I like new, I like fresh, I like seeing new takes and perspectives on characters. So I'm looking forward to finally having time to sit down and watch Agatha, because I think I've watched the first 15 minutes of episode 1.
Yeah, I have not watched the most recent episode. Just came out like last night, I think. I'll probably watch it later after the podcast. But so far, I enjoyed the first 3.
Yeah, so that's just some of the stuff going on, like real recent. We'll obviously have more like next week and stuff like that, and we'll continue like in the beginning of our shows just to touch on some new stuff going on, so that way people get an idea of different things in the Nerdverse that's going on.
I do like seeing these like lower budget shows succeed.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's reported to be the lowest budget MCU show, and so like Disney hasn't said how much it was, but Echo was the one before, and it was 40 million. So it's less than 40 million, and it's pretty crazy considering how well it's done.
Yeah, it always, and because you see some of these like really high budget TV shows and you're like, wow, like this looks great, like visually it's very great, or the costumes are good, or the makeup's good, or whatever, and like that's great, but sometimes I feel like they're just trying to buy success, because you can make something like look great and keep viewership without having to focus so much on story. These lower budget ones, I just really like seeing what they can do. I mean, especially with real sets as opposed to like fully CGI sets. You don't have as much like motion capture actors or things like that because your budget's lower, so it's good to see actors actually interacting with one another during scenes.
Well, it's nice they put more into it. Like, you have to put a lot more into the story. So, like, just from watching the first episode of Agatha's, and I guess we'll just get into it now. You just there's so much to the story. Like, you have such good actors and actresses like in it. It's not something that relies on any sort of action. Like, I really liked like Captain America, such a great movie, but the story relied on the action sequences to take part in it. Same with like a lot of the really good Marvel stuff usually relies on action scenes to also be a big thing in it. But if you look at like WandaVision was another good one. A lot of acting, I felt like a lot more story. I don't know what the budget was for that, but that was nice to see. And
I
then
think their budget was fairly high.
I would imagine because of the two big names, Vision and Wanda, being in it. But like Agatha's so good. I don't know if this is correct or not because there's so many things out there that say it. But supposedly, like Scarlet Witch, the actress that plays her, I can't remember her name, top of my head, was even contemplating possibly coming back if like it made sense.
Yeah, I mean, she said before that she would play that character as long as she could, that she liked it. But she just said she didn't want to come back unless it makes sense. I think they're leaving it open definitely for that. That's one thing I've really liked about the show. Cause I'm a huge Marvel nerd, and it's got a little bit more references to things outside of just what's been the popular MCU stuff, which I'm excited about. I love Aubrey Plaza, so I'm excited to see more of her character, which maybe currently Rio Vidal is her name, and she is a unique character to this show. She doesn't exist in the comic books, but there's been a lot of speculation. I have my own speculative theories about who she is, but I don't want to get into that because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, even if it's an accident.
Also has one of my favorite television actresses of all time in it, in the form of Deborah Jo Rupp, who most people know as Kitty Foreman from that 70s show. So excited to see her in something new. She was one of my favorite characters in that TV show. Like I said, I'm just excited to see her on a TV program again.
Yeah, she's a great actress. That's for sure.
With Disney, like I feel like Disney's had quite a few flops here recently, so it's nice to have something. And like comparing budgets, if we say Agatha All Along is say his budget was 30 million, that puts it at about 1/6 of the Acolyte's budget,
which was a good show.
Yeah, maybe, but it dropped off viewers so hard after the first week.
It did, but
it's because it was not a good show. It was just very lazily written. And I'll give it to him. The fight choreography was great. The cinematics were great. Like, obviously, they spent a lot of time and dedication in making it look good. The writing was not. And
just
that's
think-
what makes a TV show.
I don't want to talk too much about Acolyte, but I just think there was one episode that made it drop off. I think it was the third or the fourth one. Was really, really slow and bad. Which is why I think there was a lot of great hints dropped throughout it and stuff, and like future possibilities with the characters and stuff. And I thought the character development of the twins was good. But anyways, more into the Halloweeny stuff because there's nothing like it. So I know we were talking about like jump scare games too. I think that's what we were going to get into also.
Do either of you remember your first ever horror game that you played?
I do.
What was it?
I'm thinking
Doom.
Doom's kind of creepy when you're a kid, I guess, but I wouldn't really call it a horror game.
I was like 6. It's like,
You got demons and shit, so
yeah, I was playing, and like they pop out from around corners and stuff. Like, they definitely got more horrorcore as it went along. Because I remember playing one on the Xbox 360 that had quite a bit of jump scares and like the flickering lights and the weird sounds, and it definitely went from just being a 2D like PC shooter into a horror game for sure.
the first one for me was playing, and I'll never forget this because it was like me and my brothers and my cousins were all at my grandma's house, fucking lights out, playing a Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil Director's Cut, I think. There's a part like pretty close to the beginning where you're like going down this hallway and there's some windows and these dogs jump through this window. Everybody in the room. It was pretty great. It was pretty good. Great memory.
So I was actually going to talk about. So I know I played Resident Evil first, but I think the first game that scared the shit out of me was Silent Hill. So like, yeah, like Resident Evil got me in a couple different spots. Absolutely. It's got, but like I don't know what it was. Like Silent Hill was like fucking scary. And like the weird creature things, because you were jumping back and forth between different worlds, like the regular and then the damned, and then like that whole thing, like solid, dude, like hands down, still the creepiest game.
Yeah.
To me.
I definitely think Silent Hill deserves a spot in the top 5 greatest horror games. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite or it's the best one, but it's it definitely deserves a spot in the top 5.
Oh, it's such a classic, like, and like a big mainstay for that studio. Like, they have been churning those out, and all of them have been pretty well received. I don't think I've seen too many Silent Hills just get a really negative review.
I also think Halloween has the most controversial game ever. Did any of you play Friday the 13th on Nintendo?
Cannot say that
Nope.
I did.
I don't even know if you can beat that game. I just remember running all around all the time, like couldn't figure out the purpose, couldn't fucking do anything, no clue, just running around everywhere trying to avoid dying. And then just seeing how long I could not die. That's all I remember. And like people talk about it like that was such an interesting game. And like it wasn't scary at all. To be totally honest, it was just super frustrating that I have never been able to figure out what to do in the entire game. And I've played a lot of games.
When did this come? Was this on the Super Nintendo?
No, Nintendo.
It was on the regular NES?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Friday the 13th. It was like the straight up name for it. I know it was Jason.
13th.
Because you were at like one of those camp areas that everybody always goes to in horror movies to die.
Yeah, the only Jason game I'm familiar with is the more recent, like what are they called? Where they're one person plays Jason and the other people are like running around hiding, kind of like Dead by Daylight, but it's with Jason specifically.
The game came out in 1989. You old man.
Yeah, what of it? But like, if you look at it, like I'm telling you, man, it's like one of the most. If anybody that watches this episode has ever played it and beaten it, please call me a loser and tell me how to do it. That would be greatly appreciated because at no point could I figure that fucking game out, like to this day.
I think those
There's
are
one
two.
on sale on Amazon if you're interested, because I had to Google when it was released and that ad came up. So I mean, it's still in the box. I'm not even going to read the price off because you're not going to pay for it.
Probably
There's-
not. I'm poor.
It's a lot.
Until
No,
this
those Nintendo
podcast
games.
takes off and I'm a regular I don't see me buying a game for that much.
There's still there's some Halloween games, some horror themed games that are multiplayer that I think are still pretty popular. In fact, one of them, the Hunt Showdown, is just got like a pretty big patch recently. They changed a bunch of stuff in it, so I think it's got a little bit of a revised player base. It's a bit of fun, and I think can get the heart pumping if you're especially playing solo. Trying to sneak around, trying to survive. It's an extraction game, just horror themed. I don't know if either of you played it.
I have not messed with that one.
I think I've played it a little bit, but not very dedicated. I think the last like survival horror game I played was Scum. Yeah,
is
Scum's
good.
the one that has the little zombies that like
Yep.
roam around and stuff. Yeah. So I do enjoy Scum every once in a while. I'm not big on survival horror games because they just take so much dedication to succeed. And with a new baby
those are my
and
favorites.
a job and trying to work out and be healthy, my time in front of the game screen is pretty minimal right now.
Yeah, another one I think I still think has a pretty good player base is Dead by Daylight. I know a lot of people see that on Twitch a lot. Never a game for me personally, but
I think I tried that one. I think it was one of the many I've like been through just because of Twitch, because I kind of peek games on there every now and then to see what's good, but
I do like
wasn't anything I stuck with.
I like it because they keep releasing new the bad guys, the villain, the hunter, and they're like horror classic characters. Like I think they have like a Hellraiser and some of the other ones. So I really think that's pretty cool.
That is kind of dope. What was the zombie game that we played for a while, James? The where we built the wildly intricate traps.
7 Days to Die.
7 Days to Die. That one was fun. Just building the really wild, like lawnmower based.
Yeah, I do love that game.
Was pretty spectacular.
It will always have a special place in my heart because it's a survival, like kind of horror-esque game. But then every 7 days, it turns into a base defense game where you're just
building tower defense.
Yeah, tower defense.
Yeah, I think my favorite moment from playing that game was when you shouted "Pull the lever, Kronk," and it turned on all the little blades.
Okay, so in regards to jump scare games for you guys, can you guys get into the storytelling ones with like no, you can't like fight the creatures or anything. You just got to run all the time. Like I know there's a few of them out there where you don't really fight or anything. It's like story driven. Can you get into those at all? Like I can't. Like I know I should be able to, and they're probably well written, acted, and everything like that. But I just it's not something I can get into. Not because I'm scared of the game. I mean, I probably would scream, but I can't do them because there's no violence. Like I want to at least try to fight the creature.
Trying to remember the name of the game. You play as like a coffee barista person. And then like this creepy customer comes in and then like you see them hanging out outside and you have to like escape them and it's like very like you have to use the mop to knock down the ladder to get up to the roof to turn off the air conditioner and it's like very like you have to do all of these things right and in like a specific order in order to like
so you're playing
escape.
Myst.
Yeah, and like
I can't get into that.
As soon as you mess up it's just and like it's a really creepily rendered face just takes over the whole screen and that one makes me jump and it's very like you type in pick up the broom and you like pick up the broom and stuff. So I mean it's that one gets me. So yeah, I can get into those like text-based jump scare games.
Yeah, I can get into a game even if you can't be fighting the monster or at least not a lot. I do like some kind of conflict other than just like the creepiness of it.
So what's one game you guys want to see get made? And I'll throw mine out there. Like what's one jump scare horror game you want made? Like that just hasn't been done or hasn't been done well.
Man, I could actually go for James Wan, like doing like The Conjuring or something like that, like a game based on that. I think would be really good because that's one of the scariest movies, like scientifically, actually. There's this whole thing about these guys who like measured the heart rates for a bunch of horror movies. But we can talk about that at another episode. But The Conjuring's on there. I think that would make for a great like jump scare style game. That would be my request.
I would like to see them make I think Dead Space did it a little bit, but I still remember there being quite a bit of sound in it. But those games that are just eerily quiet, I would like to see them do a space game that is just void of sound and you still have to survive, because that's how space is void of sound. I think you could really do a lot with a horror element of silence.
Like a Jason in space.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, just depriving people of senses in games can cause a lot of intensity. Like, because
Yes.
like in a lot of games, you're relying on several cues. You're watching for like movement. You know, you're listening for like the wind up for like attacks, or specifically in the Witcher. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So I'm running into monsters all the time. I have surround sound headphones. It helps me locate which direction they're coming in. You're literally depriving someone of a sensory reception to where they're constantly having to think, do I need to check behind me? Is it in front of me? Is it below me? So I think just a true silent game would be pretty intense.
Yeah, that would be nuts. Like playing games in general, like on mute. I know people have had to do it. If you've got kids, now it's more prevalent. You can wear headsets a lot easier and different things like that, like with systems. But a lot of times, like when I would sneak and get up like on my parents instead of like going to bed for school and like try to play like Super Nintendo, and I'd have like the fucking sound all the way off. It's like I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see everything and like fucking. Yeah, it makes it a lot different. Like not even just like a jump scare thing, but it makes it more challenging too. So yeah, it'd be interesting if they did like a horror game where you did like lose senses like during the game and things like that. That would be a very cool concept. Like even just like I know it would be crazy, but even like some vision, so you could have like some weird shit like where you hear sound and like it reverberates and you get a bit of a vision and then you can move like different things like that. That would be kind of fucking neat. I want to see like a true like well made like a Scream type movie, like as you go through and play it, like you get attacked randomly and different things like that depending on your choices. So you could almost do like a story mode / action game. So like you play through it and depending on your choices, it turns into like a fighter or something like that, and it's you versus fucking Scream guy, or like whatever they want to do. And then you just have like a 2-round like match, and then he like fucking scampers off. Just like in the movies, something like that. Like I think Scream would be a real interesting, especially today, like where we have a lot more of the storytelling games that have come out now, where it's like what's Detroit was one that told a bunch of stories like with the robots and stuff. I think doing a really good horror game with that would be cool.
That's the type of, like, if you're wanting that psychological murder mystery semi-action thriller game, you're really, really, really gonna like Alan Wake.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I keep meaning to try it. I haven't had a chance.
It's so
good. So good. Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, I can't sing that game's praises enough. The original is just amazing.
Yeah, that's another one that I would put in my top 5 easily.
Yeah, hands down, like for sure.
So what does it take to be a Halloween like game? Like, because when I think Halloween game, there has
the color
to be
orange.
Because like it can't be just grim and dark, because if those are your characteristics to be like a Halloween style game, then like
Submarine 2 is a Halloween
Yeah,
game.
I was gonna say that's the exact game I was about to bring up. Is like technically speaking, depending on what your criteria is, you could almost say that Space Marine 2 is a Halloween style game.
Well, I mean, so are you talking about like a horror game or a Halloween game? You know,
I mean,
because there's a pretty big difference between the two. Not all horror games have anything to even like really do with Halloween. Though I feel like that's the most appropriate time to play them.
I mean, I feel like if we're going to classify something as a Halloween or horror themed game, it needs to hit those classic like horror tropes, right? There has to be intensity. There has to be conflict, whether it's like physical conflict or some type of like something being after you form of conflict. There has to be stakes, which is going to be found in every game because like that's your character's drive, is that there's stakes. And it needs to have a sense of otherworldliness to it. It can't be just like, you don't want it to turn out like a detective serial, like old TV show, like where the gumshoe solves the crime. There has to be that sense of There has to be that sense that you're the underdog, which is seen in every like classic horror trope ever. Is that the main protagonist is always the underdog compared to this like otherworldly supernatural
I think
antagonist.
I think that to be a horror game, you have to have just a single like horror element that is a large part of the game. So like zombie games, they're horror games, even if they're not scary. I would say they're horror games because they got zombies. Zombies are monsters. They're scary. They're typically associated with horror. But
Supernatural or otherworldliness.
So the difference, though, I bring up, there's like Halloween themed. You could have like a Halloween themed like cozy game. You know, like what if somebody made Animal Crossing Halloween Edition, right? Like, that would be a Halloween game, but it wouldn't be a horror game.
It's absolutely not a horror game. Animal Crossing is probably like the most soothing game I think I've ever played in my entire life. Like there's just no stakes in that game.
Had some ideas for Animal Crossing of modes they should make. Like one of them is like how does everyone survive on an island with no food? Like kind of like the Lord of the Flies.
You shake the trees and apples come out.
I mean, or do you end up having to eat someone on the island? Like, let's turn this into
like you're trying to ruin Animal Crossing for me, and I'm not going to let you do it.
Yeah, man, you should just play The Forest.
Yeah. It's not Animal Crossing Donner Party Edition. Like, just play a horror game.
But you could make it horror.
No, you can make anything horror, but that doesn't mean you should. Like, they made a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. That doesn't mean they should have made it.
No,
like,
they should have. They definitely should have. I'm glad it exists, even if it's terrible. I wish it is.
I heard it was really bad.
Oh yeah, they made a sequel.
Yeah, which is slightly better, actually. It's actually a little bit better. It makes me kind of excited because they're making a Peter Pan one coming out, I think, like later this year.
So
I have to
totally off topic, but the best Peter Pan story ever is definitely in Once Upon a Time. If you have not seen that and you're a fan of Peter Pan, the season where they go to Neverland, that is the best Peter Pan, in my opinion, ever. Like, Robin Williams is the best ever. Second is Once Upon a Time. Go check that out. The storyline was good. Not very Halloween-y, but good. But yeah, I want to see the Peter Pan horror, too. I think that's going to be good. But yeah.
Yep.
They eat Eeyore in the Winnie the Pooh movie. That's the only thing I'm going to spoil for you, is Eeyore gets eaten.
Definitely not going to watch it now. That's my favorite character in Winnie the Pooh is Eeyore. Yeah.
He's everybody's favorite when they're eating him, I guess.
I think I would have started off with Piglet, like of the choices, you know.
Piglet's one of the killers.
That tracks for pigs. Like, they're a lot meaner than people think.
That's true, and they will eat anything.
Yeah. That is also true,
including Eeyore.
Ooh, last thing on the video game topic with jump scares and stuff. Would you ever do a haunted house with VR? And do you think it could scare the shit out of you?
100% and yes. I feel like VR would be better than a traditional walkthrough haunted house at getting a scare out of you.
I haven't done a haunted house with VR, but I have played some jump scare VR games. There's horror VR games. And they
I'm sure there is. Like I'm sure there's a haunted house walkthrough, but
they are terrifying.
I feel like that'd be
jump scares like right here, right? You know, it's like in your face.
Yeah, so I mean, I recently, I was telling you guys about the trip. I just went to Universal Studios Orlando during their Halloween horror show, and I walked through every single haunted house, and I think they got me with like 2 jump scares out of all of it. So I think VR would definitely be. I think VR would be better at getting me with a jump scare as opposed to just walking through a traditional haunted house.
I do enjoy haunted houses, but I can never get my wife to go.
I'll go with you. We'll hold hands. We can go through them, Bones. I got you.
I'm going to find out because I'm going to try to go. They have a haunted house here that's usually pretty good. So I might meander my way that way because I can't remember ever doing a haunted house, but like I don't remember anything in my 20s. I remember I started drinking when I was 20. And then
I was 40.
Then next thing I knew, I was married, and then I had some kids, and I'm like, there's just blocks of time that's not there.
Yeah, we call that time traveling.
Yeah.
I was actually going to bring up a very controversial point with Jesus and not knowing what he did in his 20s, but I figured that's probably best left alone. But
I thought he was busy like turning kids into birds and stuff.
No, he was sending bears to maul kids. That's what he was doing.
I thought that was a different guy. I thought that was the bald dude.
Yeah, no,
from the
but
Bible
that's
that
no. They made fun of the bald dude, and that's why Jesus sent the bear or God sent the bear. I don't know.
That's
They're the
fair.
same, right? I don't know.
Don't make fun of bald people. It's the moral of that story, or you'll get attacked by a bear.
I mean,
Which
you
in
know.
San Francisco means something entirely different than it does in Wyoming.
But yeah, so I mean, I think that's quite a bit of video game stuff. Like we talked some jump scares and different things like that. I know, and the last part of this episode, of, if I'm not mistaken, we were going to discuss some like traditional shows and things like that we kind of enjoyed
The Munsters.
for the season. The Munsters.
Yeah, the
Man.
Munsters. I watched that a lot when I was growing up. My grandmother, who did not like anything horror, enjoyed that show because
It's a Halloween show, not a
Yeah.
horror show. It's
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
very
that's what-
good. You should definitely check out an episode or two of The Munsters.
I don't think I've ever watched it, but I've seen it, obviously. But I don't think I've ever sat down and watched like an entire episode of it. I was more of the Addams Family.
Do you love me a good Addams Family?
is good. I've enjoyed pretty much all of the renditions of the Addams Family.
I've never understood why so many people jump on the Joker and Harley Quinn like relationship dynamic and don't jump on the Morticia and Gomez Addams relationship, because those are two people that are just wildly devoted to one another. It's actually quite sweet. Like,
they're very much in love with each other, but they don't hurt
Yeah.
anybody. I think that's what it
that
is.
is not true. That is 100% not true. They are constantly like putting booby traps in their house. Like, someone has to rearm the booby traps in the Addams Family home that people get caught in, right? So to say
I
that
thought
they
it was
don't
the
hurt
thing.
people,
The hand that's
I
just
don't know.
wandering around wildly. I would love to just be a hand. That would kind of be cool, like for just a Thursday night.
Did y'all watch Wednesday?
yes, good show.
I did
Yeah,
not.
I was a big.
Good show.
If
I'll
you like
give that
Addams
one a
Family,
thumbs
you should watch it. I think that could easily be like a Halloween kind of annual watch cozy show because it's a little bit creepy, but it's not really scary. You know.
Yeah, and I think creepy is a good way to describe it. It's creepy, but not like intense and scary. I mean, if we're talking about like scary shows, especially during spooky season, we have to bring up Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Ooh, so you consider that a Halloween-y show?
Yeah, I mean, there's conflicts. There's supernatural. It has all the elements of a horror show.
Yeah, you have a monster. It's a creature feature.
Yeah,
Like
Vecna.
Yeah.
Which shout out to D&D.
every season has like a progressively like worse
yeah, because there was the
monster,
Mind
right?
Flayer, there was Vecna, there was
Speaking
So-
of seasons and shows, What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know if y'all have watched that. It's freaking phenomenal. It's hilarious.
definitely
It's
Halloween show, not a horror show.
yeah, it is hilarious. But
Super good.
it actually is starting its final season this this month sometime, the 21st, I think.
Yeah, coming to a close. Which that show is so good. The one where he's shouting at the guy to finish your food, and he like has the half-eaten person like sort of laying on the trash was probably one of my favorite episodes.
Well, I will have to say I don't know that one.
Oh, What We Do in the Shadows is so good. It started off as like a comedy horror movie, if I
Yeah, it was a
remember
movie.
correctly, and then became a TV show.
It's Taika
what's-
Waititi.
Yeah. And it's like a reality show, but it follows a coven of vampires.
Yeah. Yeah, that live in
And
like
they're,
modern day, and they're fucking
Yeah.
like stuck in. They have like a lot of anachronisms, so they like fucking still act like people out of Victorian London and shit.
Yeah. They still wear like the high-collared cloaks and capes and the operatic chains where they has like it's so
Traditional
wild.
vampire-y stuff.
Yeah, and then they don't understand how taxi cabs work in like I think that was in the movies when they were trying to figure out how the taxi cab system worked, which was hilarious.
Yeah, highly
So yeah,
recommend
you
the
guys should
movie.
definitely check out. Yeah, you should check out What We Do in the Shadows because it's funny. Again, Halloween, not horror.
Yeah,
We have to emphasize
Well,
that with different
you-
things,
you-
and I
you
never
can
would
call
have thought about that.
you can call it horror comedy. Like horror comedy is a thing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if that's the case, then we have to talk about Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Probably probably the greatest monster movie that's ever been made, in my opinion.
I don't agree, but that's fine. It's good. I enjoy it.
I love Mel Brooks movies. Young Frankenstein is really good. It's such a classic comedy.
I think TV show wise, like one of the most traditional cliche ones for Halloween is always going to be Scooby Doo, just because it's such a spooky-ish show, like all the time, and then they somehow find a way to take it to another notch for Halloween episodes. I think that's a big one. I usually try to watch is like different Scooby Doo because they've done new ones and different things all the time.
What about the Simpsons? Treehouse of Horror.
The Treehouse of Horror, yeah.
Shit, yeah. No, sorry, take it back. That's the best one. I've been wrong like 3 times.
They were like really good, actually. Like some of them were like really good. I do.
None of them are bad. I watch them every year. The biggest upside to Disney Plus is I can sit there.
Treehouse of Horror.
And I just watch all of them back to back.
I mean, if we're going to bring up like the supernatural based shows, I think we have to bring up Supernatural, who also did like Halloween specials and stuff. So,
oh, Jesus Christ, that show. It was good. It's fine. I enjoyed it, but how many seasons?
It went way too
15.
long.
Too many seasons.
15, 15 was too many. I mean, oh gosh, it's a good thing Ryan's not in on this one because he is absolutely in love with that show.
It went too long. Like I love it, but it did go too long. Like
the conflict escalation got so ridiculous. Like they went from like hunting down werewolves and spooks and specters and like mysterious demons to like
hanging out with God,
setting up a boxing match with God's brother Frank. Like it got a little too far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the original
Power Creep. We talked about that in one of the early episodes. Power Creep.
Yeah, it's even in the title, folks, so you can check it out. But even the original either writer or creator left the show because he didn't want it to go on any longer. He was like, "It's done." So it's like that. This is it.
Didn't Eric Kripke didn't he do Supernatural and then he went on to do The Boys?
Yes, but I had read again. I never say anything for 100% because I read a lot. I did read though. I think it was him. He left the show because he's like, I wanted it to end by now.
He's like, I gotta go do some other things. I can't just do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, this wasn't supposed to be 15 seasons. I think it was supposed to end after I don't know. I want to say 3 or 4 for some reason. It wasn't supposed to continue on past that originally. And it just kept going. And even after that, initially the seasons were still good. I think the last 5 were really kind of.
I mean, but it was, Halloween. It was spooky. It was,
I mean, it was horror themed. It was a horror show.
Horror themed, yeah. In the same way that Buffy was.
Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's a classic too, man. And that's actually
Angel also. I like Angel more than I ever did Buffy.
Ooh, the controversy. You were team Angel, not team Buffy, huh?
I mean, I'm not saying Buffy was a bad show. I'm just saying of the two, I liked Angel more. Maybe it was just the phase of my life. I was not saying that Buffy is a bad show by any means.
We gotta get a quick shout out to the horror romance. So people can think about it if that's what they want to do. Yeah, like
Vampire
True Blood,
smut novels,
Vampire Diaries,
Twilight.
Don't you dare. Take that, you fuck off with that. Anything that sprinklies, ruining my vampires. But
there's several
True
spin-offs
Blood
from the
good.
Vampire Diaries. I liked the first 3 seasons of it. I thought were pretty good, and then they started power creeping again, the same thing that happened to Supernatural, right? Just throwing in more and more ridiculously powerful things.
Yeah.
I actually a Vampire Diaries. They did that spin-off with the brother, the family.
The
I thought that was was pretty good too. That wasn't too bad. The vampires in general, Vampire Diaries, I thought was really good. Their storyline, because movies and games and books and comics and everything always tries to do fucking Vampire Society, and I'd like to think that Vampire Diaries is kind of one of the closer ones as to what would happen. Because I think most other storylines, it's too much one way or the other. I think Vampire Diaries, though, did a good job. Vampire the Masquerade, I don't see that being how the society would run. It'd be interesting, but it's just so much.
That's such a fun game to play.
Oh, one of the best ever. Play it Halloween night. It's good. Play it in a graveyard.
What do you guys think on Thriller? Does Thriller also fall into the same horror and like spooky season for Halloween, like thriller movies? Jaws.
Well, Jaws is a
Not for
horror.
me.
Jaws is a horror. It's a creature feature. Jaws is a creature feature.
See, and I don't consider it like a creature feature so much as just a thriller.
Jaws is the main character.
Yeah, it's the shark. Yeah, I get that. But I guess I never really considered it a creature feature, just as like a plain old thriller.
It's like Piranha, which is clearly a horror movie.
And, ooh, Anaconda. Talk about terrible horror movies.
Oh, they're remaking that. They're remaking it.
Oh, good.
They
See, I
are,
think they
yes.
should go through and like
It
remake
looks like
the
it's-
bad movies into better
It's going to
ones.
be
I
an
feel like
intentional
it's
comedy. It seems like it's got like
Is it?
Jack Black in
Oh.
it.
Cocaine Bear.
I kind of love that movie. It's so stupid.
It was so stupid. It was so dumb. I'm so glad I watched it. Like,
I have to watch that one still. It's another
so
one.
ridiculous.
Oh my god. What's an iconic like super like an iconic Halloween, not horror? What's an iconic Halloween character to you that they've done like movies and different things on? And just to give you an example of what I mean, mine will always be the Headless Horseman. It's such an iconic like character, almost the equivalent of like ghosts and ghouls and goblins and things like that. Like
you and Ryan would get along well because he's also a big fan of the Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane.
yeah. So like I really enjoy the story to that. Like I think that's like to me, other than like main things of like witches and ghouls and goblins and things, like the Headless Horseman is just the pinnacle of Halloween. Like if I ran a tabletop Halloween game, he would be the big bad.
I'll let James go next.
Yeah, I don't know that like because what other like named characters are associated with Halloween specifically. Bloody Mary, maybe.
They have done quite a few of those. I was thinking along the lines of Count Dracula.
Ooh, Vlad.
Definitely the right season of it. Not necessarily Vlad, because there's other, there's the Nosferatu Dracula. There's the
I can't wait for the new one.
Hey.
Robert Eggers has not missed yet, in my opinion.
yeah.
The
And
only
so
thing.
to me, Dracula is synonymous with Halloween to the point where they even have Dracula in comedy movies, Halloween-based comedy movies, in Hotel Transylvania, and wasn't there I want to say there was a Leslie Nielsen vampire
he played
comedy
Dracula at
show
one point,
where he
yeah.
played Dracula. So I mean, that's definitely a Halloween icon in my opinion.
I guess you could
As
just
much
go
as like Victor Frankenstein.
not so much name, but like kind of implied is the Wolfman, right? Like he's never like specifically, it's never a specific person, but it is a stereotype, a trope. It's a character that's used, the Wolfman, right? So
But
Yeah.
that's a really good one though, and that's kind of what I mean. Like him and like the one Travis said, only because they're generally like one. There's
Yeah.
one of them. Like when you get into like witches, ghouls, goblins, zombies, and things, they always attack you in packs and things like that. Even Hocus Pocus, there's like 3 witches. So like that's why like to
Well,
me, I'm
three's-
thinking,
Three's a
of that-
powerful magical number.
yeah, I just think it's Zelda when you say 3 because of the. But that's what I meant. Like the Wolfman and stuff like that. Like that's a perfect. Like those are perfect examples because whenever they do those movies, generally speaking, it's just one being. Like Count Dracula is the one. If there's any other vampires, they were made from Count Dracula. If there's any other, well, no, Wolfman's usually just Wolfman. Like there's nothing else around it.
yeah, I mean, you have werewolf.
Swamp Thing.
You have like werewolf movies, right? Like that can.
But they're not the same thing. Like when I watch a werewolf movie, I don't think of Wolfman.
It
I
depends
don't
on
know
which
why.
one.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of depends on which story.
Like so yeah. I'm like there's like movies like Underworld where werewolves are just like that's just it's just an action movie, right? Like it's a horror.
That's
action
just
movie,
a
but
yeah.
like
It's not a scary anything.
yeah. To me, that's not.
Beckinsale looks great.
Ow, amazing.
Yeah,
gotta
nobody's
say,
complaining
what's
about that part.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single person that was like, meh.
We do have to give a shout out because Agatha, you do get to see her butt in the beginning of the first episode when she came out crazy. Looking good. Just
Catherine
want to
Hahn.
say that. Yeah, you were looking good. You're doing great things.
Eric says you've done great on your toning.
Oh,
Yep.
I
two thumbs up.
just thought about some shows that probably actually is the reason I like horror as much as I do. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Such
Tales
a
of the
great
Crypt
show.
Keeper.
And
Are You Afraid of the Dark is
Goosebumps?
Canadian, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it is. Yeah,
Just throwing that out there.
Oh shit! I remember reading Goosebumps as a kid.
there was a show too.
Yeah,
Yep.
I never think I ever
No,
watched the
I
show.
watched
I
all of
do
it.
distinctly remember reading those books though.
Yeah. So when you're a kid, there's two people. There's two kinds of kids. There's Animorphs and there's Goosebumps. And it's like, which one were you?
Both of them. Both.
I was Goosebumps. Animorphs, though, like if you read the books, super creepy storyline. Like not for kids at all. When you get into
one
the whole
person
thing,
got stuck as an
Yeah.
animal
Yeah.
yeah. And if
like,
you read the books,
forever.
like, very creepy. Like the whole story with that, like it was not pleasant.
They're
Like
children soldiers and shit. Like, it's fucking
Yeah,
nuts.
like Power Rangers is also a story of child soldiers.
Yeah, but Power Rangers was a little different. Like they always everything ended on good terms, and like there was no craziness like with that unless you went like in your own mind you took it to a new level. But like if you read Animorphs, like you were like, holy fuck, that's PTSD.
I'm gonna see if Bones can remember this novel series since we went to the same school. I remember reading a horror book that I checked out in high school. That was like the murder mystery thriller like horror style book. And it was like a guy dumped a girl and she went crazy and she put ground glass in like his hamburger she made him. I don't know if anybody else read those books in that high school. I came across it by happenstance because I was just like, some people have checked out this book a lot. Must be good. I'll read it. And then I remember having nightmares about like, what if somebody puts ground glass in my food? This sounds horrendous.
I clipped this, so we'll put it out there to see if anybody knows for you, Travis.
Yeah,
It is clipped.
Nightmares for like a week straight. I was just like, if somebody poisons me and they do it with glass, like that is just going to be the worst thing ever. It's like there's a whole chapter on this dude like slowly dying as his internal organs are shredded by tiny little like glass pieces going through his body.
American Horror Story. You just made me think of that for
yeah.
some reason. Another solid.
It has good seasons and it's bad seasons.
Yeah, it's had some ups and downs.
But overall, I do like it as a show. I'm glad that they made it.
What was everybody's first like horror movie or TV show they watched?
Like I said, for me, I think it probably has to be Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because I remember watching it like, as a way too young kid. Though I did watch Chucky when I was like 6, which I probably should not have because I was terrified for a long time. So maybe that's probably it.
Afraid your action figures were gonna pop alive and stick a knife in your eye.
Yeah.
My dad let me like walk in on some different horror movies. But Are You Afraid of the Dark was the first thing I watched on my own, like horror show.
Same.
But movie, like I remember seeing Leprechaun as like a kid.
I laughed so hard watching Leprechaun.
As an adult, maybe not as a small child.
So I have to give a special shout out to my sister who got introduced to the horror genre in probably the most intense way possible. And the first horror movie she watched from start to finish was Stephen King's It. And she watched it in a house that was decorated in clown themes.
How old?
Young, middle school probably.
Ooh.
It was at a sleepover at her friend's house.
I mean,
and like
I would be
they
terrified.
decorated in clowns and then watched the clown horror show.
I'd be terrified of a house decorated in clowns. Period.
That was my thing. For
Speaking
those
of
of you that
clowns-
don't know, if you're
Terrifier 3, Art the Clown. Terrifier 3 is coming out. Terrifier 1 and 2, very controversial movies. But apparently the third one, some people like 3 people walked out at just the beginning scene, one of them almost throwing up, and apparently, supposedly on set, the actor that plays Art the Clown almost threw up during like filming one of the scenes.
not making my list, you're not selling that type of trait for me. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Good.
I think I'm okay.
There,
I'll read the synopsis later.
Yeah, I'll catch the cliff notes.
they are pretty hardcore.
I think the first horror movie I remember watching in middle school, which my dad thought was like super hilarious, was I was about to go on a trip to the South, and My dad was like, "You should watch Deliverance. It's about the South." And so I watched Deliverance like 2 days before going to the fucking swamplands. So I spent an entire week with my church group paranoid that we were going to get snatched up by hill folk and never seen again.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that your dad did that. That does not surprise me at all.
No, I'm going to do it to my kid too. He's like, "We're going to take a trip to Louisiana and watch this movie." He's going to be like 8.
I love how you emphasize the church group part too.
Like I was really afraid we were just going to get snatched up by hill folk, and that was just going to be the end of it. Like, I watch that movie now and laugh, but like,
Oh, dude, I totally understand. Like I said, I watched Leprechauns. I thought they were real for the longest time as a small child. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get fucked up by a leprechaun. Like,
how
so,
young
like,
were you
anytime
when you watched this?
I don't remember. Like, I was super young. Like, that movie came out in what, the early '90s?
Yeah, maybe even late 80s.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Had
Like,
Jennifer Aniston in it, if I remember correctly.
yes, who is only aged like fine wine.
Facts.
Not that we should
That's
become...
what I mean. That's what money will do for you.
They got
Leprechaun, 1993.
Yeah, so I would have been, when it came out, 8, something like that, right around 8.
I've been 5 or 6.
So, yeah, Leprechauns were gonna get me. It was a very
Warwick
scary
Davis played the Leprechaun, by the way. I'm looking at the cast.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Something I knew he was cast in.
I was like, he played another big role, didn't he?
Willow.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah.
Great movie.
TV show remake, not as good as the movie.
I remember. Do y'all remember the movie? I think it was the movie Beast Man. He had like a little ferret and.
Oh yes,
Oh, yes.
yes.
So there's a scene in that movie, and I think that it's in that movie, but like I was like a child watching this, don't have that good of memory, but like where these like weird demon things just like wrap some people up, and then there's just like some shaking, and then just like bones fall out. And I saw that as a kid, and it fucking terrified me for so long.
Just nightmare fuel instantly.
Yeah. And that's not even a horror show. Like that's clearly not a horror show.
It was just a afternoon TV program.
Inappropriate child show. But I think that's pretty much it with our Halloween stuff. But we're gonna keep it going all month.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping people are enjoying how we're trying to like segment our show a little bit more, kind of like TV, things like that.
We skipped one on the news.
What's
Should have brought up Halloween Havoc in a couple of weeks for NXT WWE. It is a Halloween themed WWE show. Not that I'm probably not going to watch it if I'm being honest. I haven't watched an NXT pay-per-view in so long. But you can also, if you have access to Peacock, you can go back and watch the really old school WCW ones and just be really disappointed in how fast WCW fell off. When they started doing the Halloween Havoc, they were real bad. Like they were so like, if you want to watch a travesty unfold, like late stage WCW, just
yeah, no, they definitely fell off. But yeah, so we're gonna keep trying to segment. It seems like people are enjoying what we did with Warhammer.
I'm sad I missed so much of Warhammer, but
well, we're gonna do it again because everybody loved it. Like I'm talking, like followers like shot through the roof for us. Like people watching our clips, people watching our videos.
There's so much to talk about in Warhammer. Like we could do this podcast just about Warhammer and have episodes for 10 years.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to do like not 10 years, but we're definitely going to do some more Warhammer. That's a necessity because obviously our particular fan base seems to really love it. So we'll get on it some more. But this month we're focusing on Halloween. It's such a great time. There's also going to be, as of now, we will get that card game out this month. We're going to make it happen one way or another because Survive, like I owe them. We've been having conflicting schedules with everything because you do need a decent amount of people to play the game. And just with everything going on, we should be able to get it out this month, though. Get that collab out there. And then we're also going to get out our Critting the Nerdverse. You're going to see some changes with that, everybody. With Clark being gone now, that's one of our lurks. And then there's some changes over on their side, too. So we're down 2 lurks now. We'll see what James ends up picking and playing. But yeah, we're going to be bringing that back with a nice Halloween theme towards the end of the month. And I think that's about it. But if anybody wants anything particular talked about for the month of October, kind of shoot me a message, say something, do whatever. There's always something you can comment on with us. We definitely try to bring some things out that people want. And we'll answer questions, things like that. Definitely not shy humans. So bring it on with the Halloween stuff. We're going to do movies still, some TTRPG stuff, some card games because Magic's doing a lot right now with Halloween. Well, spooky stuff. So, yeah.
Hasbro's capitalizing on a
fucking
horror-themed holiday.
I know.
What?
Yeah, Duskmore. Anyways, so yeah, just keep watching. And keep letting us know what you like.
Speaking of watching, make sure you go out and watch Evil Dead, the greatest of B horror movies.
Great movie. Great. Actually, I like this TV show a lot too. It's super good.
Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Solid. That's a series where we should mention it is nice if you bring in some original people. Like, he was passionate about that role, and having him involved with a project is a great idea. Not involving original people is sometimes why shit fails.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with being woke. Sometimes it's other things.
Sometimes.
Got to put that clarifier in there.
Yeah.
But seriously, go out and watch Evil Dead because those movies are just so good.
I even
swallow your soul.
I even like the more serious remakes that they've done. I thought they were pretty good horror movies.
No, the premise of it was extremely good. It was the fact that it was a B-rated, like, poorly acted horror movie that turned it into the classic that it became. We should do an episode on B horror movies because there's some.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about movies later. So
out there.
Oh yeah, we're definitely doing a horror movie episode, and we'll
for sure.
We'll break it down with some new stuff and then some B-rated horror.
I love B-rated. Honestly, this is my favorite. I say that I'm not big into horror movies, but B-rated horror movies will get me every time. I will watch a terrible horror movie in a heartbeat.
I miss 80s boobs. Just throw that out there.
The classic trope of 80s. It's just like I'm being attacked. I don't. That's not one of the things that I watch those for. I usually watch it for the really terrible acting and like
the over the top special effects, like
which is just it's just a dude with a two turkey basters full of like water and red food coloring, just kind of. My favorite is when you could see the strings holding up the monsters in the background. Those are usually like those, like whoa. You can see the guy's hand working the puppet.
There's a movie. I'll bring it up when we do the B movies where the guy that was wearing the monster outfit was like you could literally see his sneakers.
Oh, I'm gonna clip that so we can put that out there so people know. See if someone can guess it ahead of time.
Yeah, I love those. B horror movies are just absolute peak cinema. Yeah, I think that brings this one to a close. So, welcome to Spooktober. We're going to continue our horror and Halloween theme all the way through this month. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, give us the thumbs up on all those platforms, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.